From Heaven's Gate to Bulldog Country, it's time to talk with Larry. Larry Munson, a special heavenly connection, talks to Bulldog fans. And we'll take our first call now from Carrollton. Go ahead, you're live with Larry. Yeah, Larry, what do you think of
Georgia's inconsistently in the first half scoring?
Having trouble in the first half. Well, anytime you go a half and don't score, you have to worry. Anytime you get 500 yards and barely 24 points or whatever, you have to worry. This Georgia offense is very potent. All the numbers look great, but for some reason why, they seem to have trouble cashing in. It's been a problem with Georgia teams in the past. Red zone possessions have to come up with touchdowns if you're going to beat a team like Florida. Yeah, when you look at this Florida team, you got a scrappy bunch there, turned their season around. A lot of people thought they were done and gone, and here they are 5-2, and they beat Tennessee. And all of a sudden, the whole world looks different, and now all they have to do is knock off a dog, and Billy Napier can have a season to remember, and not for the reasons people were afraid of. This Mertz kid reminds me of some of the kids we used to get in Dooley's days. He's just a game manager, and he really can't hit a deep ball. And the chances of him hurting us deep aren't that great, but the defense overall has been challenged, and so obviously the defense will have to play well. But what Georgia can't afford is to have one of those empty halves. They really can't afford not to score at every opportunity, and what we don't want to see is this offense going all around between the 20s. They're going to have to get touchdowns, and field goals aren't going to be the answer. And speaking of field goals, when we have to kick one for the first time in a long time, we're not sure that we're going to make it. So look for the Dogs to pile it on with offense, and Mike Bobo will have to show all of his tricks maybe, but he's going to have to open this thing up and try to get ahead early like he's done before. If he can play the Kentucky game again, I think he'd pull that one out of the hat. And so the Kentucky game looks like it's either an aberration or the only game that they looked like last year. But it's encouraging that at least they could do that. Now, concerning Florida, the type of team that Florida is they're going to have to try to slow you down as much as possible. Let's take a call. Where are you calling from? I'm calling from Danielsville, Larry. Too far away from Athens. What's on your mind? I'm concerned about the fumbles. That's something we hadn't seen this team do when they was winning national titles. They hardly ever fumbled. Just hardly ever. And now, last 2 or 3 games, it's starting to be a problem. Yeah, and it might actually tie into the red zone issues as well. As the offensive line hasn't quite gelled, and you know, when they throw these guys out like they do, it's amazing how they can keep these lines going from year to year to year. We could never do that back in my day. But they've done a good job of rotating it and keeping the line relatively steady, but it's been a few growing pains. Well, we're in week 8 now, so we shouldn't have any trouble with the line trying to get to know each other. But the fumbles will be a problem. Turnovers in a game like this is a team like Florida's big hope. They're hoping that the Dogs will hand it to them. And if you fumble it 2 or 3 times, come up dry on 2 or 3 red zone possessions early, let that crowd, the other side, get dominating all that noise, this Jacksonville can become a nightmare, and we all know that. But we all know by watching this team should be able to handle Florida. I think Georgia's biggest problem is It's internal. This team has yet to decide exactly what its identity is. This team perhaps is missing leadership. Stetson Bennett gave them that in abundance last year, and folks, it takes a lot to replace that. And another thing, and Billy Napier's going to have his guys doing this. He's a good coach. I remember one time I was talking to Ert Russell, and when we were just smoking the cigars and we were talking, and he says, Larry, he says, what my job is, mostly, is to take a kid and make him do something that he don't know that he can do. And so that's what Georgia has to face. Will Florida, with that scrappy bunch, do something they don't know how to do? Well, that's why it's called football. The Dogs will find out soon enough on Saturday in Jacksonville. There should be another one. And then, very likely and hopefully, there will be some property destroyed somewhere between here and Bainbridge if all goes well.